Hey friends, it's Bill, and you are watching Bill's Box of Sound. Today, we are going to take a listen to an interview that I did with Frank Zappa back in 1988. This was an interview that I did for the Cleveland area weekly entertainment newspaper Scene magazine. I wrote for them from like the fall of 1977 until about the fall of 1988. And I still write stuff now and again, but currently the closest thing that I do to resembling journalism are these YouTube videos, and I appreciate you watching. Hit like, hit subscribe. Now back to the situation at hand. This was the second time that I had talked to Frank. The first time was in 1984 on the Them or Us tour. Now, I don't have a recording of that interview. The reason for that is that I had a tape recorder all set up and connected to the telephone, and I set it up, started it, double checked it, and then I went to the other room where I had the telephone I was going to talk to Frank on, and I picked it up, made the phone call that would reach Frank and conduct the interview. Now, for one reason or another, Frank was not available at the time, so they said, call back in about 5 minutes. No problem. Went back and I reset the tape recorder, and then while I was taking care of something else, just before I was going to call Frank again, the phone rang. I picked it up. Hi, it's Frank Zappa. Panic ensues. So I went back to the other room, started up the tape machine, ran back to the other phone, picked it up, and I conducted my interview. Now, for some unknown reason, there was a switch or a connection or something that was just not engaged, and the audio signal did not get to the tape recorder. So that interview did not get recorded. But as it was the very first time that I got to talk to my musical hero, Frank Zappa, I was as nervous as I could possibly be. Scared shitless, as they say in the business. In order to keep my composure and keep the interview on track, I was constantly writing notes the whole time. And as a result, the notes that I took after I got done and realized that I didn't have a recording of this interview and I couldn't do it again, I took those notes and my memory and helped construct a cohesive article. Okay, that's ancient history. Back to the interview that you're about to hear. This is to promote the Cleveland area stop of the 1988 Broadway The Hard Way tour. We had no idea that this was going to end up being Frank's final tour. And this show took place on Saturday, March the 5th, and the interview you're about to hear took place on the previous Saturday on February 27th. It was a leap year, at about 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, you got to remember that this is back in 1988. Ronald Reagan was the president. So we ended up talking a little bit about politics and a little bit about music, a little bit about Frank's releases on CDs, because CD was the hip happening thing at that time, digital recording, the PMRC. And if you're a hardcore Zappa fan, you'll understand. So also, you've got to remember that at that time, I was 28 years old, much, much younger than I am now. As a matter of fact, take a look at this picture. This was taken in the late 80s, actually 1986. And if you've got a keen eye, you can tell that I've got a 1984 Zappa Them or Us t-shirt on. All right, here it is. I'm picking up the phone, calling the designated number to talk to Frank Zappa. Go.
Hello,
Hello, Frank, please.
this is Frank.
Hi there, this is Bill Camerata from Scene magazine in Cleveland.
Hello.
Okay, well, we might as well get right to it since we're running short on time.
I'm sorry, I just got a call from a guy named Bill Torcamo from 60 Minutes. They're doing something on this stuff.
Oh, great. Any idea when that's going to be on the air?
Well, we haven't shot it yet, so
Oh,
I
okay.
guess it's as good as mine. We're having dinner Sunday night to figure out what we're going to do.
Okay, and what's the topic going to be on?
Well, they're more interested in the voter registration than they are in the rock and roll. There'll be a little rock and roll in there, but be their main interest.
Have you set up voter registration tables at all the concerts on the tour?
Everyone.
Including the Cleveland concert?
Well, I'm not the one who does personally those arrangements, but I'm sure that it will be there. We've been working in conjunction with the League of Women Voters, and in the cities where for some reason they wouldn't cooperate or couldn't cooperate or didn't have the volunteers, we've used in Connecticut CCAG, which is Connecticut Citizens Action Group, in Massachusetts MCAG, which is Massachusetts Citizens Action Group. Washington, D.C., it was an organization called USPIRG, United States Public Interest Research Group. So various groups in various cities, either with or without the League of Women Voters, have staffed the tables, and we expect that we're going to be able to do every single concert on the U.S. tour.
Great, and I hear that the response is really good, too.
Well, the most we did one night was in Hartford, Connecticut. We did 480. 2,700-seat theater, which is a pretty good percentage of the audience, but we've been averaging about 10% of the audience every night.
That's good. What made you decide to tour at this point in time?
Oh, just a whole bunch of stuff. It seemed like the right thing to do, and I did want to get involved in voter registration. It's one of the things I've been interested in since the 26th Amendment was passed in 1971.
Mm-hmm. How are the audiences on this tour, or is that a big factor in how the show goes?
Oh, they've all been massively enthusiastic, and they really love the band because it sounds bitchin'.
Yeah, well, you've got a huge band on this tour.
Well, it's a good-sounding band.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's hear some music out there.
Well, how long did you have to rehearse for this show?
4 months.
How much material does the band know?
106 songs.
So, theoretically, how many nights could you go through without duplicating a song?
Well, we average 22 songs a night, so you can do the arithmetic.
Okay. So for somebody to catch a lot of the stuff you're doing on the tour, they've got to follow you around a bit.
As a matter of fact, that's what many of them are doing. There's a bunch of guys that have bought tickets to 19 shows, and we see them every day. In fact, they're waiting for us when we get there in the afternoon for the sound check, so we let them in for the sound check. And I talk with them every day.
Great. I've heard that you're doing a lot of different things, including parts of Bartók's Third Piano Concerto.
Mm-hmm.
Which part of that are you doing?
Well, first movement.
The first movement? That's pretty amazing, because I've been listening to that the last few days. And
isn't that one of the most beautiful melodies you ever heard in your life?
It's really nice, and I'm just wondering how you're doing that. That's something I'm really looking forward to and hoping you play it at the Cleveland show.
Well, you know where we put it? We put that and the Stravinsky Royal March in the middle of Packard Goose. Instead of a guitar solo, we play those two pieces in there.
Oh, that's great. There's a few songs that I've heard on Bootlegs, and I'll ask you about Bootlegs in a minute. Stuff like Ride My Face to Chicago.
Yeah.
Are you doing that on this tour?
Yep.
Okay. And there's two other tunes, Carol You Fool.
Yep.
And
Shauna and the Bushwop.
Right. Now, are those old R&B songs?
No, I wrote them.
You wrote those too?
Yeah.
They sound like the old R&B songs. Any plans to release any of those songs in the near future?
Shauna and Carol You Fool and Ride My Face to Chicago are all included, and you can't do that on stage anymore.
Oh, great. Speaking of bootlegs, how do you feel about bootleg recordings that come out of your stuff?
I would say that if I believed in magic, I would put a curse of a horrible, horrible disease on all the people who make bootlegs.
You've got the synclavier on this tour,
mm-hmm.
And how is that used in the show?
For sound effects mostly, and then usually once during the show, the machine will play a sequence, usually right before we go to intermission.
I see. So the show is a set, an intermission, another set?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do the voter registration during the intermission.
Ah, okay. That's a good way to plan it.
So because we leave a half an hour, and they can go back out in the lobby and sign up and
get the mashed potatoes.
That's right.
Okay. Honker Home Video is, I guess, in full swing now. The first two releases are out. Do you have any idea how those are doing sales-wise?
They're doing real well, and actually the tour is helping their sales. And, of course, Uncle Meat is just about to be released.
Yeah, I'm watching for that in the stores and on release lists.
Yeah, what's holding it up right now is Cal Schenkel hasn't finished the painting for the cover of the jacket. He's got about another week to go on that. And we just have to get the colors separations on it and finish the package. It'll get into the pipeline.
I see. The picture on the front of Video from Hell, I thought there was going to be some sort of shot in there with you in that getup on the front.
What, the honker?
The thing with you at the desk with your hair up and little no-D glasses there.
I wish that there was. But, that shot was taken long after Video from Hell was produced.
I see. Yeah, I got to see it for the first time finally because it's so hard to get a copy just a few days ago, and was really, really impressed with it, especially with the fact that you put on the You Are What You Is video, which is something that almost nobody's ever gotten to see because of those stupid things in there that they cite as problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a problem giving the President of the United States the electric chair, isn't it?
In view of who the President is.
Yeah.
But that's another thing altogether.
We don't know who the President is. We know who talks to us on television periodically, but we don't know who the President is, and that's the real problem now. Because it used to be Bill Casey, but he's dead, and then, it was kind of Oliver North, but he's unemployed, so who in the fuck is doing it? Because we know that the guy we see on TV is doing nothing but taking a nap in the afternoon. I think maybe it's Ed Meese.
Oh, I hope not. That's scary.
That would be the easiest way to explain some of the ignorant policy decisions that are coming out of there.
And that's true.
Because, that's right in line with his average of brilliant decisions. Stated in the news recently, when you're talking about Ronald Reagan and Ed Meese, the line was, almost brothers. Remember that one?
Uh-huh. Damn scary. About the presidential race that's going on right now, any idea as to who you think is going to end up getting the nominations?
Well, I am hoping that Mario Cuomo is as smart as I think he is and will allow himself to be drafted at the convention and will stay out of all this primary horse shit and just go right for the throat at the convention.
Mm-hmm, because I haven't seen him mentioned in any of the primaries.
He won't be. I think that if he follows through on the strategy that I think he's following through on, he will look more statesman-like after these guys have been seen in debates and all these news clips, photo opportunities out in Iowa, lying and just, pandering away for months on end. I mean, it really makes him look bad, and then all Mario would have to do is come in there and magnanimously accept a draft at the convention, and I think he'd be smart to do it that way.
Right. Okay, well, let's see, on the Republican side, we'll talk about the Republicans as little as we can. Aside from what's already appearing in the new songs you're doing on tour, how do you feel about Pat Robertson's campaign? Do you think it's losing steam?
Well, it lost steam in the Northeast, but I think that it's going to pick up steam as he moves toward the socially retarded areas.
You mean the South?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see the picture of the papers of him campaigning at a gun factory? He was holding a gun, looking down the side of it.
No, I didn't see that.
A hilarious picture. It looked like Guns for Jesus or something like that.
Well, there's always been that element that is part of the white Christian right. All you got to do is take a look at the state of Idaho, and you'll see where Pat Robertson and his rhetoric will lead you.
Let's go back to video and music. Near the beginning of Video from Hell, in the thing that says, excerpt from Secrets of the Utility Muffin Research Kitchen, there's a program you're working with that has the things on the screen with sex, violence, drugs, alcohol, and obscenity, and it says mix automation at the top of the screen. What exactly is that program, and what does it do?
Oh, that was a joke program the engineer put together. It's called the 666 Youth Modification Program. And it was like a PMRC joke, It was all the claims they had made about the record industry corrupting the youth of America, so I thought we would manifest it for them right there on the screen. Because all this, pick one classification, drug, sex, violence, and then you're supposed to hit a key, and it says corrupt or enhance. As if you could really do that.
Right. Because
when you did an automatic mix on a song.
Because I was wondering, actually, if you were doing anything to the mix, what would be done, and what kind of strange thing would you put in there? Well, that's a good joke. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I liked it too. What the program does is make the screen flash.
Oh, okay. Digital audio tape. Have you played around with any of the machines at all?
Nothing. You mean the little portable DATs?
Right.
Never even saw one.
Have you heard a copy code signal applied to anything?
No.
Okay.
But what one must remember about the copy code controversy is this. The copyright on the chip, the copy code chip,
Right, belongs to CBS.
Yes. And in order to copy code anything, the chip must be purchased from CBS and or a royalty paid to CBS for the use of the code. So they have a vested interest in putting
money's at the center of it all.
Everything. And if the United States government passes a law that says things must be copy coded, that is legislation in the service of commerce. And it's one of the reasons why record industries are kind of willing to play footsie with groups like the PMRC, because their husbands can decide things like copy code chips. And the results can mean hundreds of millions of dollars in found money for major corporations.
Do you think that the copy code legislation will pass?
I don't think so.
Yeah, neither do I. Speaking of the PMRC, are they still alive in any sense of the word, or is it all Albert Gore for president stuff?
Well, that's all it ever was. I'll tell you the same as I've told every other person I've done an interview with. A journalist in Los Angeles named Phyllis Pollock called the PMRC office for an interview, and the phone was answered, Gore for president. And she says, is this Gore for president or the PMRC? And they said it's the same thing. And I think it should be obvious now that when the PMRC was first founded, that's all it ever was. It was designed to get the Gore family name into the newspapers, and there you have it. And I stated it in 1985, and I did an interview with a guy from the Free Press, Detroit Free Press, the other day, and he remembered that I'd said it then. He said, yeah, you were right.
Will you be doing any video shoots on this tour?
Well, we already did one for the CBS Morning News opening concert in Albany. They followed me around for a couple of days, and they covered everything. Like the first.
Nothing done for Honker, though.
Well, I may have access to those tapes after it's all done.
Oh, good.
But I wouldn't print that in the article because I'm going to have to get the tapes out the back door.
Right, you never know. I've noticed that more orchestras are popping up and playing your works now and again. Is there any plans for any more of your orchestra recordings to surface?
Not off the bat, because they're too expensive and they don't sell very well, and there's just no way that I can afford to do any more of them.
Are you going to be able to put any more Synclavier albums?
Oh, that will happen, sure.
Okay. Was Jazz from Hell very successful?
Yeah, it did pretty good.
Yeah.
Nominated for a Grammy, if you believe in those things.
Well, that's been a joke for years. The first year that they had the Rock Awards, it looked like you were inserted there as just a token nomination.
Yeah, well, I was nominated once for Best Male Vocalist for Dancing Fool. Can I tell you something?
A lot of excitement about your compact discs has been around and is still around. As a matter of fact, I operate a compact disc store, and I sold Bob Stone his copies of Perfect Stranger and Does Humor Belong in Music. What CDs will be coming out this year besides You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore?
There's a new album called Guitar.
Okay, any back catalog?
The ones that have just come out. Got Hot Rats, Uncle Meat, and Reuben and the Jets. That's the only back catalog that's coming out this year.
Okay, but you haven't decided what the next batch is going to be.
Well, one of them is going to be absolutely free, and I think we're also going to do One Size Fits All, but I don't know what the other ones will be.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many years it'll be before all your back catalog's available on compact disc?
No, I don't, because my deal with Rykodisc only covers 24 of the 50-some titles.
Do you plan on extending that at all?
That's under negotiation.
Okay.
But even if it doesn't go with Rykodisc, I'll either do it myself or do it with somebody else, and eventually it'll all get out, but I don't know how long it's going to take.
Right. I remember two occasions that you stopped playing guitar for an extended period of time. I believe one time was when you did the orchestral music for 2 years, and the other time is when you were involved with the Synclavier and all the PMRC stuff. What makes you decide to stop playing guitar when you do, and what motivates you to pick it up again?
The only time I play is when I'm touring, because at home I don't play it at all. So if I'm home between tours, that's usually a fairly short period of time if I'm touring a lot. And so, I pick it up when we go back into rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, I'm a businessman. I have to run a business when I'm home.
Understood.
And there is no time to do anything other than run a business.
Okay. This is the first time that you've had horn players on tour in a long, long time. I mean, any major horn section.
Since 1972.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read someplace, I don't know if it was your quote or an indirect quote, that you mentioned that horn players don't like playing harmony to guitar parts and things like that, and they're hard to take along on tour.
True.
How do you feel about that now that you're bringing these guys out on tour?
Well, I should find the right guys. I mean, that's a statement about horn players in general.
But right now you've got the right people playing.
Yeah, I sure do. And basically what they're being asked to do is not to play chords or, harmony parts behind guitar solos. I mean, if they play a little 8-bar figure that makes a transition between the body of the tune and the guitar solo, that's all they're required to do. The rest of the time they're playing really complicated parts that are challenging to them, so it keeps them on their toes. But other groups that go out with horn sections, the basic function of the horn section is to play little punches and pads and boop, boop, boops in between stuff that the electric instruments are doing. And it's not really a very gratifying life for a horn player. They play a few notes and then spend the rest of the night banging on Latin percussion instruments. We don't do that.
Okay. Are you recording every single show on the tour?
You betcha.
What sort of a tape budget do you run up?
Well, we're carrying 2 Sony 24-track digital machines slaved together. So we're making 48-track recordings of every show. And each reel of tape runs an hour and 12 minutes. So it takes a little more than 2 reels of tape per machine per show. So let's figure an average of 4 reels of tape per show, and it's about $180 a reel times 40 shows for the U.S. part of the tour. So you figure it out.
Yes, and it's a hell of a lot of listening afterwards.
Yep, it is.
What merchandise are you going to be selling at the concerts this year?
T-shirts, sweatshirts, posters.
And the usual stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the future releases for Honker that is mentioned on the back is the Al Malkin Homespun Philosophy tape, I Need Your Love. Who is Al Malkin?
Al Malkin is a guy who used to be a New York City cab driver. I met him when he came up on stage for a dance contest at the Palladium, and it turned out that he was a school-time chum of Warren Cucurullo. And consequently got to know him a little bit better. The guy's got an amazing sense of humor. He now drives a limousine in New York City and drives me around when we go to town. And as a matter of fact, I am sending him to the Grammys this year because I'm going to be on the road when the Grammys are on.
So if by chance something should happen where you'd win, he would accept it for you?
That's right. I guarantee you the best live television you've ever seen if they get him on that camera.
Oh, that was great. Okay, now, as you already said, you are a businessman, and pop music in general today has become into a calculated and pre-packaged format. How do you stay a successful businessman in this sort of world?
By not doing that. Because if I were to compete with the other people who are doing freeze-dried formats, I'd be dead right now. I provide, as it says on the label, the world's finest optional entertainment.
Okay. One thing I wanted to ask you for a long time, in a lot of your things you've got the phrase "smell the glove." Is that in any way related to the Spinal Tap thing? Yeah. You saw that film.
Yep. I could hardly watch it. It was too true.
But a lot of the stuff, actually, truth is stranger than fiction and usually funnier.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've lived through the Marshall amplifier turned up to 11. And, oh, Cleveland, and, all that stuff. I mean, that's too real.
Mm-hmm. Yes. One other question, and then I'll let you get to your next interview.
Okay.
The digital refurbishment project of all the old stuff. In the case of Reuben and the Jets, that album sounded radically different when it came out.
It's because it had new bass and drums added to it.
Yeah, but were you consciously trying to change it that much, or trying to recreate the original parts?
No, we didn't try to recreate the original parts. We tried to make it better.
I see. Because there were a lot of stuff that I missed, like, for example, the sax parts in the middle of Jelly Roll Gumdrop got dropped totally. But that was just mixing decisions that were made at that time with the new parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only things that were added was the bass and the drums. All the other original parts are still on there. None of them were changed. The only reason I changed the bass and the drums was I figured since we're going into a digital medium, that we should include something on the digital medium that had digital dynamic range. Because the original drum parts on there were mono and they were compressed to death. They have virtually no dynamic range.
Plus, they were damaged by the tape storage, if I'm not mistaken.
That particular album wasn't damaged in tape storage. That one was in pretty good shape. I mean, I could have put all the original parts on there and just left it.
It just would have sounded terrible.
Yeah.
I see.
And the thing that was damaged was we're only in it for the money. And Lumpy Gravy, both of those were a disaster.
Well, I think you did a pretty good job with what you had there.
Yeah, well, we tried.
Okay. All right, well, we're really looking forward to you in Cleveland. And what else can I say? But thank you very much for your time.
All right, see you there.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So that is it. That's my interview with Frank Zappa from 1988. I know I asked a lot of dumb questions, but at least I was a true Zappa fan. And I know that he's been interviewed by a lot of people who weren't really into his music that much and put them in their place. And I think that Frank was very, very kind to me in the way that he handled me. And I'm just so thankful that I got to speak to Frank twice before we lost him. Anyway, aside from that, I want to go back to the question about his remixes of We're Only in It for the Money and Reuben and the Jets. I went back and I listened to Jelly Roll Gumdrop on Reuben and the Jets, and he completely got rid of the saxophones after the middle part of that song when they go back to the chorus. You listen to that and you listen to either the original Reuben and the Jets or Greasy Love Songs, which is the original mix of Reuben and the Jets, and you can hear the best version of that song. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I'm also flattered that interview, once it got published, was quoted in Charles Ulrich's The Big Notebook, which is a great piece of reference. If you're a Zappa fan and you want to really dive deep, The Big Note is a great book to get. And also I was quoted in Andrew Greenaway's book, Zappa the Hard Way, which was about the 1988 tour. But aside from that, if this is the first time that you've been watching my channel and you like the Zappa content, well, go back and check my other stuff. I've been doing Zappa content for many, many years, and hopefully you'll find something that you like. But aside from that, I had a great time, and I hope you did too. Thanks for watching. Go listen to some Frank Zappa, please.